Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo to Bolt fam, it's the director. Chargers fans. What a weekend it was, dude. Oh my God, this NFL Combine, among some of the most exciting that I've seen in my time as being a fan. But if anything, it's painted a pretty clear picture to me, man. It's that this draft is completely and stupidly loaded at several positions of need for the Chargers. You need a wide receiver. You got, 5-6 rounds worth of amazing wide receivers to choose from. You need offensive linemen. Probably the strongest offensive line class I've ever seen. It's going to get nuts out here, man. A great season if you're a team that needs to build a little bit. And, of course, the Chargers, who just brought in brand new head coach Jim Harbaugh, completely new staff. Joe Ortiz out here, smacking his lips a little bit. I think this is a great year to be the Chargers and find themselves in a position with some superior talent in the NFL draft. So much so that I had to break this video up a couple of different times, man. We're going to go over all of my favorite first-round targets for the Chargers because, yes, the trade-down scenario is starting to look more and more likely, as well as our day 2 and 3 picks in future videos. But for today, man, we got a lot to go over because there are some options for the Chargers in the 2021 NFL or 2024 NFL draft this season, man. So before we do kick off, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. And for you newcomers, take advantage of the offer seen on screen here. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. Small amount of time you guys take, hit the like, sub, bell notification. Helps me out a lot. Let's get into it, baby. Lights, camera, action. My top Chargers targets for the first round in the 2024 NFL draft. Of course, these opinions are growing and changing every day, but I think one of the most influential things that can happen during the offseason is, of course, the NFL Combine, which is going to have our risers and fallers. The first thing I kind of wanted to jump in on here, though, are some of the rumors that we're hearing revolving around Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, of course, the Chargers, who have pick number 5, a lot of us left that dream at the station, right? Like, the Cardinals went out there, they got pick number 4. It's most likely going to be the Marvin Harrison destination. Well, lo and behold, there's been quite a bit of talk around the league in terms of what might happen with the Cardinals pick at pick number 4 and the consequences of the players falling thereafter. And if you guys haven't heard yet, it sounds like there is a legitimate shot that the Arizona Cardinals could be trading out of the 4 position entirely. And of course, anybody with a brain and 2 brain cells to rub together can tell you it's probably going to be for a team that wants to trade up for a quarterback. Lots of talk around the quarterback position this season. Many teams need the position filled. A lot of teams willing to trade up for it. And you know what? A lot of exceptional quarterback talent in this class as well that would be worthy of a trade-up scenario. Now, that doesn't mean to say that someone couldn't trade up and get Marvin Harrison Jr., which I think is just as likely. But as of right now, the dream is alive, y'all. The Chargers could very much so be in play for Marvin Harrison Jr., and that's why in my first scenario in round 1, if the Chargers are sticking and picking at number 5 and Marvin Harrison Jr. is on the table, of course you're going to pull the trigger and never look back. Marvin Harrison being perhaps the best wide receiver prospect we've ever seen. Him and Jamar Chase, I think a lot of people say that's debatable. But either way, this is a huge get for whatever team is lucky enough to pull the trigger and grab a Marvin Harrison Jr., whether it be by trade up or not. If the Chargers can stick and pick, that's even better. There is a maybe scenario where the Chargers could trade up and try and snipe him above, the Arizona Cardinals, maybe with the New England Patriots. But I think more than likely, if the Chargers get very lucky, which sometimes we've seen in the past, maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. Falls in our lap and gives us a reason just to stick and pick at number 5. Now, this next scenario here, and again, this is a lot of scenarios I'm going to be throwing at you guys because we have a lot of guys that have risen and fallen based on the combine. This next one also is coming off the back of maybe a lack of participation at the combine. And it's going to be maybe a differing or evolving opinion on Malik Neighbors, who, of course, didn't participate either. The top two guys, maybe not much reason to go out there and risk injury. I think the talent of this wide receiver class and just how blown away I was by all of these guys has shifted my opinion on just how elite Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors ought to be. Because some of the guys that are coming up on this list would be first-round picks much higher in future or in other drafts previous or in the future, just because of how good they are. That really helps separate these top two dogs from the rest of the pack. Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors are really in another stratosphere when it comes to talent, and these other wide receivers are also very good. The perspective has been laid out a little bit more clearly for me with the talent that I saw put on display at the combine, and for that reason, I think my opinion on Malik Neighbors to the Chargers at 5 has evolved. Whereas if you guys watch some of my previous videos, we talk a lot about Brock Bowers and the Malik Neighbors argument there. And for me, for the longest time, it's been very close. I think Brock Bowers is a hugely valuable asset to the Chargers specifically. I think this team specifically would be one of the best landing spots for Bowers, one of the best options for the Chargers, even at 5. But now that I've seen the talent of the wide receiver class and just how far ahead Neighbors and Harrison really are, I think it's helped me solidify my own opinion in terms of who do I take at 5 if both are on the board. And I think for me, at least for now, Malik Neighbors has jumped Brock Bowers as my priority at number 5. It's a big statement to be made because it's one that didn't come lightly. I mean, there's been a lot of thought, even, revolving around my own personal beliefs at the tight end position and its value. A lot of the times, it's been easy for me to push that aside and say, you know what, screw it. Take the best player at 5, and if it happens to be a tight end, so be it. Don't let that sway your decision so much. But I think the recent evidence in terms of Neighbors' ability and his skill set above what's already an incredible wide receiver class has pushed him just over the edge for me as my pick at number 5 if both were available. So Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., if either are available at number 5, I think you stick, you pick, and you become very happy with what your wide receiver room looks like in 2024 and beyond. Now, in this last scenario, of course, the first two being if the Chargers decide to stick and pick at number 5, there is one more player I feel is deemed worthy of the number 5 overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, which is loaded with talent. And that player may shock some people because we haven't given it much talk lately. It's not the flashiest name in terms of getting people excited for the future. But I'm going to go ahead and say it, man. I'm on the Joe Alt train. Watching this guy perform at the Combine and see the kind of numbers that he put up. I think he ran a 5.05, which is impressive for a tackle. Then you add on top of that fact that he is 6'8", 321 pounds. He looked hugely athletic for his size, which is a big deal when it comes to tackle. I think he tested unbelievably, in my opinion. But I think being able to see him in stark contrast of his draft mates, of his classmates, made me realize why he is such a special prospector. Because you guys know, I'm not, an official analyst. I'm not a guy that goes in and overanalyzes everything top to bottom, X's and O's, et cetera, et cetera. I am, first and foremost, a fan that's excited with the kind of, same perspective as a lot of you guys have. But in watching the Combine and understanding, the hype revolving around this man, I got to believe it for myself. Joe Alt, he's going to be the best offensive tackle in this class. And again, just like Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison, they're standing above what is a very impressive class for their position. Wide receiver, it looks very deep and very good. So does offensive line this year. This line position class is ridiculous. There are more starters in this class than I have ever seen in my time as an NFL fan. It truly is unbelievable. And it's something that I think we all need to pay more attention to as Chargers fans. This could really happen. The Chargers could go offensive line in the first round, very realistically. And if it's Joe Alt, I say to all you Chargers fans out there, this is a reason to celebrate. He's not just the best in this class, but the best we've seen in a long time. We would be set and forget at right tackle for Herbert's entire career, and he would be the final piece to what it will become one of the best duos in tackles in the entirety of the NFL. Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt on each side, those bookends, would create one of the best situations for any quarterback in the entire league for very, very many years. So Joe Alt is a very realistic and very worthy of a top 5 pick for the Chargers in this NFL draft. Some people may say, Director, is it overkill? Is it worth it? You could argue that a little bit because of the talent that you can find a little bit later in the draft, but you could say the same thing about, Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison as being those top guys at wide receiver in a very good wide receiver class. You take them because they are a true difference maker that have separated themselves from a pack of other players that are very good at that position. So Joe Alt, to me, very worth the Chargers pick at number 5. Next up, this is where things get a little bit interesting, so I need you guys to follow along with me here, okay? The reason why we're not stopping this video at Malik Neighbors, Joe Alt, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is because there is a very, very realistic scenario that is building in the Los Angeles Chargers' possible future, and that's the possibility of the Chargers trading down, okay? I said this in one of my tweets, and I'm going to say it again. With every passing day and every player that performed at the Combine, the possibility of the Chargers trading down becomes more and more real and honestly more and more appealing. This draft is so loaded with talent from top to bottom, from rounds 1 to 7, that if you can get more draft capital to continue to hit on these players, I think you're better setting yourself up for the future. And this year in particular is even more important for the fact that we've got Jim Harbaugh in the building, who has been one of the forefront guys in college football, recruiting these guys and understanding the talent maybe better than any other NFL coach in the league right now. We are in a very unique position where the more picks, the better. This is going to translate into what we do in the offseason with Khalil Mack, maybe even Joey Bosa. Trades. I don't care if it's of course I care, but I'm just saying that if it's a second-round pick, third-round pick, hugely valuable. But this year in particular, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh-round picks, also super, super valuable. And that's why I think the Chargers at position 5 in the first round of the NFL draft would be very wise to trade down if they could, because you could get quite the haul for a team looking to trade up for a quarterback. Dare I say, even a generational talent at wide receiver. Being able to load up on picks just may as well be worth it. So in the first round, I'm going to throw you guys my first scenario of a trade down, and I think a lot of you guys are going to like this. I got the Chargers trading down, and I'm going to let you guys use your imagination as to who our trade partner is going to be. I'm just going to let you guys know where my mind is at in terms of position that we're actually going to draft this guy at, okay? So whoever the Chargers decide to trade down with, I think Brock Bowers is a great target for the Chargers between picks 8 and 12. I hope that makes sense to everybody, okay? And this is why I think Brock Bowers to the Chargers is still a very strong narrative. Because instead of, like I said at the top of my video, replacing Brock Bowers with Malik Neighbors, I want to leave you guys with the idea that no, Brock Bowers is still very much so on the board for the Chargers because of how good of a player he is and how much of a difference maker he would be for our team specifically. But it's just in a different scenario, a very good scenario, one that maybe I even favor in some ways over just sticking and picking Malik Neighbors at top 5. Maybe if the Chargers can trade down with the Atlanta Falcons, right? Maybe with the Minnesota Vikings or any team looking for a quarterback or skill position player, whatever. If we can get Brock Bowers and a bunch of picks between pick 8 and 12, that is a huge value in my book. And you guys know, I've talked a lot about Brock Bowers. You guys know why we love him. Great blocker, hugely talented receiver. You get the ball in his hands, it's going to take 2 or 3 guys to take him down. Super fast for his position, can burn, DBs over the middle, gives you that instant playmaker ability that Justin Herbert so desperately needs on his team. There's no doubting that Brock Bowers would be an awesome and valuable asset, maybe even centerpiece of this offense kind of asset to this team. The question is, can you still get Brock Bowers while also getting an additional third, dare I say, second-round pick and change? That is the golden opportunity right there. And in this draft, it may as well be worth it. And a lot could change, guys. A lot of you guys might say, Director, what if we're sitting there at pick 5 and, Malik Neighbors is still available and we decide to pass on him? Yeah, it's a bit of a risk. But at the same time, what if we're looking at a scenario where 4 quarterbacks go in the top 5 and one of them is via trade with us? That pushes even more talent down the board. I don't know, guys. I think trading down is a good option. I think Brock Bowers may be the best result of a trade down. And I think it's one that is very realistic at this point. I think it's not too far of a stretch of the imagination to say, hey, the Chargers traded down, got an extra second or third, as well as Brock Bowers. Ka-ching! Big winners of the NFL draft are the Los Angeles Chargers. Next up, a guy I think we need to start paying a lot of attention to if the Chargers are indeed a trade down candidate, which they very much so are in my mind. Tayon Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama. I'm targeting this cat between picks 8 and 12, just like his Brock Bowers before him, who ran a 4.50 at the NFL Combine. And I think, honestly, when it comes down to it, I've been taking a look at all these corners. I think Arnold has emerged as maybe the most complete corner, in my opinion, that offers the most instant impact out of all the corners in the draft. Sure, I think there's a ton of corners in this draft that actually carry a lot of value, especially in the first round. But I think Arnold just is almost your safest bet at this point. He had a solid time. He has 4.5, is not going to blow the socks off anybody, but I do feel like he plays faster. He also had something happen that I didn't expect to carry as much merit with me, but it did. This dude's a solid character, man. And if you're anything, if you're a Chargers fan, you know anything, it's that we value character almost above everything. Right? You could be a great football player, but a crappy person. You ain't going to make this football team, man. Tayon Arnold, if you guys didn't catch his interviews, talked a lot about his mama, how grateful he was for her, and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, he tugged the hearts of a lot of football fans out there. But even behind the scenes, he is hugely liked among teams. And his talent stacked on top of that does kind of scream Los Angeles Charger to me. He's polished. He's a very smart defender, great coverage guy. Even better tackler at some points, man. I don't know. Like, Tayon Arnold just kind of fits what I would imagine Jesse Minter is looking for on defense. For that reason, if we trade down, I'm targeting him between picks 8 and 12, and I'm not looking back. To me, I think he's the best corner in this draft. Next up, another great corner I think would be an awesome option for the Chargers. Let's say Tayon Arnold is gone, and the Chargers are still picking between 8 and 12, which is where I have this guy. Quincy Mitchell, cornerback out of Toledo. This dude, if you're looking for impact from the combine to change your perspective and position on a player, this man ran a 4.33. Blazing at the combine. One of the more athletic corners that you're going to find this season. And he's also great in coverage, man. I would say predominantly better in zone, but great all around and can play physical. Great tackler. And a big reason why I think this corner class could help persuade the Chargers to trade down. I think if Brock Bowers is there, it's a no-brainer, but there's a possibility that he could be gone. And one of these top corners may end up being, a huge impact add to this team to make that trade down situation worth it. Like, yes, we traded down, we missed out on Malik Neighbors and Brock Bowers, but you know what? We got Quincy Mitchell, we got Tayon Arnold, and some, extra ammunition in day 2. I don't know, man. It kind of feels right to me. Feels right to me. I think all of this, when you're weighing the risk reward, these players are making it feel more worth it to me. Next up, Quincy Mitchell, Tayon Arnold, my top 2 corners of this class so far. Great players out here. Great players. My last player that I'm targeting between picks 8 and 12 is going to be Dallas Turner. This is kind of an outlier for a lot of Chargers fans. Kind of like a forgotten piece of the defense because of all of our other needs right now. Dallas Turner, to me, even though the Chargers don't have a huge need at edge, I predict that the Chargers will have Bosa or Mack plus Tuipulotu. So edge isn't going to be the biggest need for this team. But I think Dallas Turner really turned on the Jets in the NFL Combine this year, man. He ran a 4.46, which is hugely, hugely fast. He was majorly explosive in the combine, tested very, very well. He had a crazy vertical, a crazy broad. I wish I had the numbers in front of me, but the man was awesome. He looked great out there. And maybe he is just getting buried by the talent of the offense in this draft. Maybe that hype has buried him a little bit. I think in a lot of classes, this guy goes top 10. And I do think Dallas Turner would turn out to be a fantastic speed rusher for the Chargers to develop alongside Tuipulotu and really give us a lot of relief past the Joey Bosa days, which is very exciting to think about. So I kind of wanted to put him on your radar as someone on the defensive side of the football, at least, that I believe would be worth a pick. I think in the top 10, but if the Chargers can get him between 8 and 12, I think that's a great player to end up with in a trade down scenario. All right. Another player I think is very worth a trade down here. We're kind of getting into the 10 to 15 range here. So between picks 10 and 15, I think it's not a bad idea to take a look at Byron Murphy, dude, defensive lineman out of Texas. This guy looks insane. Ran a 4.87, which, yes, it's really fast for the defensive line position. But he's an insanely good pass rusher from the interior. You're talking about a guy that can play opposite of oh my God, I'm blanking right now. Either way, very, very good defensive lineman that can get to the quarterback relentlessly. Morgan Fox. Relentlessly gets to the quarterback, and he's got the burst and speed to really close that distance faster than almost anybody, maybe, yes, anybody in this draft. A lot of in the league as well. What's also kind of scary is how good he is versus the run. You would often think that a guy that is so good as a pass rusher maybe has a bit of a weakness versus the run. He's also very good versus the run. Very well-rounded football player. And honestly, I say this a lot in a lot of my videos. Two of the top biggest needs for the Chargers sneakily that I think the Bolts will prioritize behind Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman and Jesse Minter is going to be running back and defensive line. And I think, in my opinion, Byron Murphy sort of separated himself as the best defensive lineman in this class, especially with him testing so awesome, extremely fluid and fast. I don't know, man. I think Byron Murphy could very well be worth a top 15 pick. All right, so I'm targeting him between picks 10 and 15 in a trade down scenario. Next up, let's say the Chargers do trade down, and it's with a partner that puts us, let's say it's the Minnesota Vikings at 11, but the Chargers really, really, really want to get a piece of this amazing wide receiver class. Well, let me tell you guys, this man right here, Brian Thomas Jr., between picks 10 and 15 is where I'd be selecting this guy. Honestly, yes, this wide receiver class is ridiculous. You got your top three guys in Harrison Neighbors and Adunze, who I think, obviously would all be gone by this point. But Brian Thomas Jr. is certainly not a bad consolation prize. Like, this is a fast, tall, physical wide receiver. Ran a 4.33 at the combine. Freakishly fast and athletic for his size. He's 6'3", 210 pounds. This is a great option for the Chargers. And again, he's not going to be anywhere close to Malik Neighbors and Harrison and those guys, but this is a very good option at wide receiver that adds a lot of speed, great vertical threat potential for the Chargers. Feels like a very complete receiver, if you're asking me honestly. I think everything outside of like contested catch, he looks very, very good. This is not a bad option if you also think about pairing him with another second-round pick. Like, that's actually not bad of a package right there. So Brian Thomas Jr., I'd be very happy with him between picks 10 and 15. Great wide receiver class this year. What about offensive line, which we're talking about a lot? I think between picks 10 and 15, you could definitely talk me into Titus Fuaga, offensive tackle. I would say right tackle, Oregon State. Again, maybe 40 times not as huge here, 5'13", but a great fit for the Chargers. If you're looking to transition to a power run system, power run scheme, this is a great place to start. And this is kind of the first player where I start to ask myself, is Joe Alt a bit of overkill at pick number 5? He could be. I would still be very happy with Joe Alt at pick 5. Definitely not going to complain there. But with guys like Fuaga a little further down the board in a trade down situation, you could still get a guy that fits a system you're trying to build, as well as some value in the middle rounds here, in the early to middle rounds. Because this dude is a huge boost to the run game, especially if you're going, again, for a power system, power scheme. I think he was compared to Brian Bulaga during that broadcast of the NFL Combine. He's 6'6", 324 pounds. He's a beast, but offers a lot in the run game in terms of power. I like this guy a lot. Another guy that really shocked me, man. Holy Toledo. Marius Mims, offensive lineman. Definitely would be targeting. Again, this could actually be a value for whoever picks him up as well, because kind of raised up the boards. I think he settles between picks 15 and 21, which is where I'm going to settle for him here as well. Ran a 5.11 .07, which again, for offensive line is really stupid good. But then you got to start looking at the fact that this man is 6'8", 340 pounds. He is a massive human being who can move. When I say move, it's ridiculous. It's unhuman. He logged a 4.33 shuttle time, which is absurd for any human being of his size. Is it the best ever? I don't know. I think it's very close. I think he's the biggest person to accomplish a number that impressive. His athleticism, his size, it's unheard of. And his hands and arm size are unreal as well. This dude, yes, maybe not as sure of a prospect as Joe Alt, but when it comes to freaks of nature, Marius Mims is certainly up there, and I think he would be a fantastic guy, especially if you're talking about, all right, we got Trey Pipkins out there. We can kind of pair him up with Mims and kind of let these guys rotate in a little bit, see what we got. I don't know, man. I just feel really, really good about the upside here. The upside, especially between picks 15 and 21. You're getting yourself a unicorn at the position of offensive line, which is hard to find, hard to come by nowadays. He looks awesome, all right? If we're sticking around the range between picks 15 and 21, which, again, this would be a pretty dramatic trade down. The Chargers would get a haul if they were to end up with one of these picks out here. And I'm talking like second-round pick, maybe a third-round pick on top of that. You would be getting a lot of value if you traded down this far. And you know who I've been seeing very consistently still available between picks 15 and 21? KoolAid McKinstry, man, who I don't think he participated, right? But I did see him interview and stuff like that. I feel like he's starting to get forgotten about. This was a lot of people's cornerback one just weeks ago. He was on my radar, right? For whatever reason, he's starting to fall a little bit. Maybe it's less that he's falling and more guys are climbing, right? Quincy Mitchell, Tayon Arnold, these guys look amazing. Doesn't mean KoolAid isn't as impressive as he was a couple of months ago. And I still believe that he would be, especially between 15 and 21, this would be an awesome value for the Chargers, any team really, in and around that spot. And again, you would get a haul of picks on top of that. But this dude is big. He's physical. He's great in coverage, right? And again, I think that physicality is one of the biggest things that drew me to him at the beginning, was imagine him in the Jesse Minter system. Yeah, I think he would thrive. He kind of looks like Marshawn Lattimore out there. You guys imagine Marshawn Lattimore in a Wolverine, Baltimore Raven hybrid defense. I think he would do rather well, especially if he's a value at this pick. I love it. I absolutely love it. So KoolAid McKinstry, along with a haul of picks, might be one of the last sure-in corners, in my opinion, at this range. Would make me very happy. All right. Next up, wide receiver. Adon Mitchell. This guy kind of knocked my socks off, dude. I'm not going to lie. Wide receiver out of Texas. I'm targeting this cat between picks 21 and 28, which, again, you're getting a lot of return on a trade down here. This guy went out there and ran a 4.34, which I don't know what I was expecting him to run, but it wasn't that. I think I was expecting him 4.45, 4.44. A 4.34 is absolutely ridiculous. And if you guys are thinking, it's only 0.1, that's pretty significant. That's several feet ahead of your defender if you're trying to beat your coverage. That's pretty great. And I think a lot of that came to my expectations came by because he's a big dude. He's 6'2", 6'3", big body guy. Maybe not the crispest route runner, but he's athletic, evidently, and very physical. So if you're looking for a guy to kind of bring a little bit of that Mike Williams flavor, maybe not as much, maybe that's the wrong comparison, but just that physicality at wide receiver with now evidently the speed, I think Adon Mitchell is certainly in the conversation for a lot of teams in the first round. But you know who shot up boards maybe more than anybody this last weekend? His teammate, Xavier Worthy, wide receiver out of Texas. Now, if you guys haven't checked out some of my previous videos on this draft class, we have mentioned Xavier Worthy, and we have mentioned that he was going to be fast. I don't know if I ever imagined that he would break the 40 record, but we knew he was going to be fast. But one of the biggest things that drew him to my attention is what he did outside of the speed, right? A lot of great players with some of the best speed in NFL history, including John Ross, will go on into the NFL and fail because they didn't have the complementary tools to build on that speed. Now, first off, I don't want to brush it aside. Congratulations to Xavier Worthy, who is likely a late first round pick, early second round pick now because of that historic 40 time. 4.21, the newest, fastest player in combine history. Bravo. And yes, this is going to cause maybe a team to draft him a bit higher than we had all imagined. But before people start writing him aside because, it's the fastest player, let's not get blinded by that, I want to remind you guys that, at least for me, I was impressed with more than just his speed before even this weekend, right? I wouldn't say he's elite in a lot of these tools, but he's got great tools to complement that speed. Great agility, separation, explosiveness, I think is pretty obvious. But he's not a bad route runner, dude. He's great at tracking the ball. One of the biggest drawbacks on him, unfortunately, that is going to turn me off a little bit, and maybe some Chargers fans off a little bit, is that maybe he did have a little problem with drops. He did. And that'll be enough for some Chargers fans to be like, maybe not. But for me, especially if it's in and around pick 28, I think I'm risking it, right? I'm giving Justin Herbert the fastest player in combine history and rolling those dice, dude. We got that. Just Justin Herbert's arm paired with Worthy. I couldn't imagine the potential there. It's nuts. And I know you guys know it too. So I think it kind of speaks for itself at that point. Now, speaking of speed, was he the fastest corner? I think he may end up being Nate Wiggins, who, again, we're targeting him between picks 21 and 28 in a trade down scenario. Ran a blazing 4.28. Now, unfortunately, if you guys didn't watch the combine, this cat did get hurt. I think he ended up pulling something. I don't remember. I think it was a hip, something. I don't remember. He'll be fine, I think, by his pro day. So it's nothing to be concerned about when drafting him. But it did happen. Now, that being said, 4.28, very fast. Very fast. Especially considering his speed or his height. He's 6'2". Very, very nice measurables for an NFL corner. I would be very happy with that. Cornerback Clemson, by the way. Nate Wiggins would be awesome. He's looked great in press and zone despite his weight, which is one of the things that I think are a drawback on him. I don't remember what he weighed. It was sub 180, right? I don't remember. That is something that is going to concern me because guys that height and weight sometimes do tend to get injured a little bit, as evident of his 40. But at this point of the first round, I'm rolling those dice, dude. It just like Xavier Worthy, man, that is what the speed and height and size and all that. That's worth it to me. I like it. I do like, and the Chargers, again, big need at corner. Maybe not as a surefire thing as KoolAid McKinstry to me, but the measurables I think are worth taking the risk for in the late first round. All right. Finally, the last couple of guys to wrap up this video. It is going to be offensive line. The first guy here, J.C. Latham, and this is a guy that, again, kind of helps reinforce the idea of maybe we do look at offensive line a little later in the draft, because this guy could honestly be available early second, which the Chargers are positioned with a nice pick there. This is a guy that, again, if you're looking to do something specific, which I feel the Chargers kind of are looking for, they're looking to kind of introduce that power scheme into the fold. Latham is an awesome option here in the late first round. Again, targeting him, all the rest of these guys targeting between 21 and 28. Fantastic. He looked good. I mean, I don't know how much he did in terms of testing, but I saw him running out there. He looked good moving. But the biggest thing that pointed out to me is he looked big. This guy, 6'6", 342 pounds. Haven't looked into him very deeply, but all I know is that he's a very good lineman in the run game. He's a mauler. Great late first round right tackle option for the Chargers. Okay? And again, that kind of makes you weigh through the fact that if the Chargers got Joe Alt, I'd be excited. It's a great pick. But maybe we trade down and still end up with a really good right tackle that fits the identity that we're trying to shape. All right? And the last guy I'm going to mention here, because I do think he's worth a first rounder. I do. Someone's going to pick him in the first round. If it could be the Chargers, it would be awesome. It really would be. The Chargers trade down, picks 21 to 28, and Jackson Powers-Johnson is available, center out of Oregon. I'm pulling the trigger, not looking back, man. He tested solid, yes, but he reminded me why he is the best center in this draft. And it's because he's just unrelenting, man. I don't know. He's mean. He's mean out there. He's a mean physical leader of men. And it's something that, again, of course, Justin Herbert's going to pair with, both alumni of the Oregon Ducks. I just feel like it's something that would tremendously benefit our quarterback, and it's worth taking the risk for and trading down. If we can get Jackson Powers-Johnson and a slew of second, third round picks, whatever, that is not a bad trade-off in my book. All right. There you have it, man. Those are my first round targets for the Chargers. There's going to be some names left off this list. Of course, you guys can put those in the comment section below. But a lot of these, in my opinion, were guys that I realistically felt that the Chargers would be available to them. Like Rome Odunze, who didn't make this list. I feel like if the Chargers trade down, he would not be available to us because I do think he's going to go like 6 or 7. Either way, who knows? Who knows what that could be? If he's available at 8 to 12, of course you're going to take him. But there's a lot of guys to consider here. So you guys let me know. These are my first round targets. Day 2 and day 3 targets will be coming very shortly. That's going to be kind of a jam-packed week of content. But that's because there's a lot to talk about. The Combine, hugely influential this season, just reinforced how good of a draft that this is and how loaded it is at positions of need. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. If you did enjoy this content, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. This has been The Director. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty. I don't know, man. Marvin Harrison Jr., the Chargers at 5, though, that would be a very easy decision for me.